Thank you so much for joining us one more time. I love to thank you because I know how busy everyone is. So we really, really appreciate you taking the time to get a preview of what Cobalt will be showing at NAB this year. So thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you. If you're planning to attend the event with your customers, if you'd like multiple meetings with Cobalt, or if you're not going, but you know some of your customers who will be going, will be happy to take care of everyone, to set up meetings. We have plenty of Cobalt staff members attending the event. We have a big, nice booth, and we'd love to host you. So please count on us and let us know in advance if you're coming. We'd love to see you there. One note that you can make is that we'll be hosting RIST, the Reliable Internet Streaming Transport Cocktail Party, on April 15th. That's the Monday. We always do it on the Mondays. So it's Monday, April 15th, between 5 and 6 p.m. Vegas time at the Cobalt booth. And Cobalt will be on the South Upper Hall. And it's going to go out in a few mailers and it's in our emails, but make a note, we're on the South Upper Hall. And again, if you schedule meetings, we'll be happy to let you know in advance how to find us. We are going to be getting here into some exciting products. We always aim for a lot of new products, new announcements for NAB and IBC, our biggest shows. And Ciro, if you can switch to the next slide. That's the first slide that I like to start all the presentations with. It really shows all the different product categories where we excel and where we keep adding more features and more products, throughout the years. We're gonna be seeing a lot more in conversion. We're growing our Indigo 2110 product family. We're growing the routers. Of course, we've had the OpenGear routers for a long time, and we've recently launched the 4 RACU router, and we also announcing all kinds of new control panels for the show, smaller and less expensive, more price competitive. So we keep adding to the product line. We're going to be looking at multi-viewer, more features on the Ultra Blue multi-viewer, additions to the compression line, wrists, and everything else. So this is a good slide if you have presentations and you share with your customers. I always like to start with the product category what we play in, because a lot of people know us for compression, a lot of people know us for processing and this and that, and it's often people don't know how much the wide range of products that Cobalt offers, and especially now that we're adding more products and different form factors. So you can switch to the next slide, Ciro. We'll be going through this agenda today. We're starting with the, I don't know if Ciro is able to switch to the slide. Thank you. We're starting with the Ultra Blue IP Multi-Viewer. That's a complex product that supports various things. So we're going to go in detail to help out. We had some functionality at IBC, but we added a lot more now for our NAB. And so we'll go over that. We're going to talk about the new Indigo updates. We added Indigo capability to the encoder and, a few more things. So we're going to see some of that here. We're going to touch on the Sapphire converter products. As you notice, I like to say that so people know there's a theme here. We name our product families after shades of the color blue. And if you know Cobalt Blue, and we love our blues, so that's where those names come from. So the Sapphire is a converter product line. We have a few new additions here. We're launching the new Aria audio product line, and the first product in the Aria product line is the Dante OpenGear card. So that's a brand new product. It's shipping by NAB, so it's ready. On the Pacific compression line, we have a number of updates too that Sid will be helping us with. The Wave routers and control panels. We have some updates on the OpenGear frames. Cobalt is coming up with a couple of new frames, so that's exciting. And a few other minor product updates, features to existing products, and some other products like a new low DA, low NDA, and things like that. And we're also going to cover all the NAB demos that we're going to have in the booth. Please feel free to stop, raise your hand, talk, unmute. We love the more interaction, the better. And we're looking forward to spending the next 40 minutes with you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Dr. Cyril Narayan is going to start. Sorry, Dr. Cyril Narayan, our CTO, is going to start, and then we're going to have Chris Garcia, our head of sales engineering and sales management for the West Coast. Sorry, Cyril.
All right, take it away, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Susanna. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. So we'll be discussing this new product that Cobalt's designed. This has been requested. There's a lot of customers that have been asking for Cobalt to design and come up with alternate solutions to what might already be in the market, but perhaps trying to put a better spin into this sort of solution for those customers that monitor various transport streams directly on the multiviewer versus having to decode and then monitor that through a traditional baseband multiviewer. So that brings us to this Ultra Blue IP multiviewer, which is our latest design from Cobalt. As Susanna suggested, a lot of our new products now have a theme, a color theme. In this case, this is the Ultra Blue IP. So with this platform, what we have is a software-based multiviewer that essentially allows us to be able to have just about an arbitrary number of inputs and outputs depending on the system that you're working with. This supports, like any multiviewer out there, will support a variety of different compressed audio and video compression standards. So it'll conform to different standards, but it will also support and conform to different protocols that are currently used with any decoding platform, or if there's a decoding monitoring multiviewer out there. Some of the primary or first step sort of supporting protocols are what we see here: the UDP, RTP, and FEC. And because we are one of the proponents of RIS, obviously we're going to support RIS on this first iteration of this design. And we have also integrated SRT, and then some that are coming in the future will be RTMP, RTSP, and HLS for those that require that capability. Another future support, which could be in the works now, would be the support for the SC2110. So if anybody's working with a new sort of baseband requirement or uncompressed ability to monitor 2110, this platform should be ready for just about any application that requires that capability. Another very unique solution that we offer with this is a very dynamic UI. So if you want to be able to create different layouts, different looks with this multiviewer, the UI is very dynamic, where it allows you to quickly stretch, resize your pips, and do all that within this ecosystem without having to implement any external control of this multiviewer. Next slide. And then some of the onboard features, or what we support out of the box with this, is essentially like any multiviewer out there. We can support any sort of configuration of your pips, so you can rotate, resize. You can do just about every sort of configuration that you would expect from any proper multiviewer, including being able to set up your audio bars, UMDs, closed captioning, all that that you would expect. This will give you that ability. Now, what we see here on the screen, if you look at these two side-by-side examples within the screenshot, we have a clear sort of indication of where your resources are at and what you're working with, sort of like your canvas. So this allows you to dynamically be able to create those different looks and layouts on the fly that can be set up and saved as a preset for later recall. One of the things that we also offer with this multi-viewer is the ability to route your audios. So we have, let's just say, multiple channels that are inbound through one of the inputs. You can sort of grab those and shuffle them or route them to any of the outputs through one of the heads that we can properly set up with this multi-viewer. If we go to the next slide, please. So as a preset, as I said, you can certainly set these up. You can save them and recall them. Basically, anybody can go in here and create their own layouts, their own presets, and this would have user management. So what that means is that if you have operators that are monitoring this systems within the system. And then we offer this as a software package. So what that means is that you can purchase this from Cobalt and you can load it on your machine or your server, or you can also purchase this from us. And this will allow you to basically have a fine-tuned system that comes validated and QC by Cobalt that will be delivered to you depending on the requirements for the inputs and the outputs and how many heads you'd like to validate before it actually gets shipped out to you. Now every input is licensed as a per input stream. So if you wanted to grow this out, just keep in mind that every input that you activate or every stream is going to be per channel. So it's not like you get a fixed amount of channels with the basic or default platform. So it would be sort of a la carte where you can scale it out and grow it out to whatever size you like, all depending on the system or the hardware that you have this running on. Some things that we'll be supporting in the future, as we see here, so being able to run this in the cloud and then providing some WebRTC output for remote control. Again, this is the Ultra Blue. It's still in its early stages of sort of rolling it out. We'll have it at NAB. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions with this, feel free to ask us and we'll be able to give you a little more feedback on how exactly we can configure this for any specific application that user may want to deploy this in. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Having gone through the multi-viewer, let's go into the 2110 land, and we have some new stuff to talk about there. We are introducing the Indigo bidirectional gateway. That's a new product. I'll be frank with you, is the card that was attached to the 9904, 9905 is now standalone. So if you don't need processing functions, all you need is a gateway. That's now available as a standalone product. So it can simultaneously send and receive up to 4 flows up to 1080p or 1 4K flow. So same kinds of functions, input, output, controlled by in-band or out-of-band NMOS, ISO4, ISO5, and it can send and receive at the same time. So if all you need is a basic gateway, if you don't need to do audio shuffling or up-down cross or whatever, that's the solution for you. So that's going to be available at an NAB timeframe. The next very exciting thing we have is an option for the Pacific 9992 encoder. So you can see a picture of that here. We'll have one at the show. So this adds 2110 inputs to the encoder, to the same encoder that you already have. This is a factory installed option, so you have to order with it. And it's exactly the same thing. You can do the same things the encoder can do, either 4 flows up to 1080p 60 or 1 flow, 1 4K flow. Just like everything else, we have dual 25 gigs ports with in-band NMOS. You can also do out-of-band NMOS through the frame interface, and you still have your 4 SDI inputs. So you can choose in a encoder by encoder basis. You can choose if you want to take a 2110 input, or you can take a SDI input. And finally, this is compatible with the BBG 1300 FR, so you can have a little standalone box that's a 2110 based encoder. So that's going to be available for shipping in production by NAB. And we have a number of new and upcoming features for the 2110 series. Support for 2022-7 Class C1 operation, which is basically if you're running those links over a wide area network, and you may be able to do that if you do JPEG access, we can support up to 150 millisecond link delay differential. So that's good for that application. The other big one is support for fully asynchronous input, no PTP, which basically means IPMX. If you're familiar with 2110, you know that in general, well, not in general, it's required for the inputs for every signal to be PTP locked. And why? Because then you can mix and match any video with any audio, any ANS data. But that's a pain in the butt. In some situations, you don't need to do that. So we can take completely asynchronous input, and RTP timestamps can be generic. So that makes us IPMX compliant. And that we are adding optional support for JPEG access stream up to 4K. That's actually already available in some of the Sapphire boxes, but this will roll to all 2110 products. So even that encoder that you saw in the previous slide will be able to take a JPEG access input. So this is eventually going to get rolled to all 2110 capable products. Now that we're talking about 2110, let's talk about the Sapphire converters, which we introduced a year ago, and we're going to talk about them a bit more. There's some new exciting things happening with the Sapphire, specifically IPMX support. So the Sapphire 2110 12G mini converters, the BBG models, they convert from either baseband or JPEG access to HDMI for behind the monitor mounting. So it's a little box that you put behind the monitor, you run fiber to it, and then you can have, it drives directly the monitor. There's two models, one that has a single channel unit that has simultaneous HDMI and SDI outputs, and a dual channel unit. They have dual SFP cages with both 10 gig and 25 gig Ethernet support. If any of you went to VidTrans, we demonstrated that in the IPMX demo there with 10 gig SFPs. Just like everything else, we have -7, we have quiet operation, and we support both JPEG access and uncompressed video, and we are IPMX compliant. So again, Class C operation, asynchronous 2110 input. These devices have an additional gigabit Ethernet port for management, and just like everything else we do, we have NMOS support. So and that NMOS can come in band to the 1025 SFP or through the gigabit Ethernet port. You can PTP lock these, or if you're doing IPMX, you don't need to. And what's new about that is support for resolutions up to 4K. We didn't do that last year, but now we have that. The last thing, important thing is this is available with both active or passive cooling. What does that mean? Passive cooling means there is no fan. It's bigger because of course you need to take the heat out. It's bigger, but it makes absolutely no noise. So if you don't care how big it is and it has to be absolutely quiet, then you take the passive cooling. There's a version with active cooling, which means it has a fan inside, a very quiet fan, in my humble opinion, but still a fan. So if size is important to you, or if the environment's really challenging, you take the active passive. The guts of the thing, the circuit inside is exactly the same. The feature is exactly the same. It's just the packaging is different. Now I'm gonna give back to Chris to talk about the other Sapphire converters. Take it away, Chris.
Okay, so now continuing on with the Sapphire conversion platforms that we have. So again, we've already had these. We started this new trend with this very basic type of conversion tools that we have. Starting with this guy here, we call this the Sapphire bidirectional. So bidirectional, BIDI, and then 2H2S, which means 2 HDMI and 2 SDI connection points. So what that means is that I can have 2 SDI and 2 HDMI connected at any given time, and I can go back and forth either from SDI to HDMI or HDMI to SDI without having to unplug any of my connected devices. Now, what's very unique about this is that we are essentially performing the same level of conversion as we do with our flagship products like our 9904 UDX cards. But what is very unique about this is that by default, we offer the frame sync and we offer the same reliability that we offer with the other products. And then we also offer the ability to have some level of color correction. And if you need to convert some, let's just say 50 to 60 or 25 to 30, you're able to do that with the scaling option that we provide on this particular platform. Now, some of the formats that we're listing here are essentially, what we think it's going to be the most critical requirement for a platform like this. Obviously, from time to time, we do get requests for something very, esoteric, something that's not listed in our list or supported formats. But for the most part, any application, any workflow that we encounter out there tends to play within this confines of these formats that we offer. Now, this was not sort of, invented out of nowhere, or out of thin air without any real purpose behind. We actually designed this because we have a lot of customers that were asking us to be able to provide a reliable solution that could easily interface between different devices with an HDMI and SDI, or I should say Pro AV to broadcast, and be able to address some of those limitations of other devices out in the market. Now, one thing that we do not highlight here, and I should probably stress a little more on this, is the ability of this product to be able to provide audio routing. So when you open it up and you look in dashboard at this product, you have the ability to route some of the inbound embedded audio channels. So what that means is that we can do per channel or bulk audio delay controls, for example. We can also monitor the audio meters, and it allows me to also route some of those input audio sources onto different other, for example, because I have two discrete channels, I can route some of those to the other channel. So this is a nice ability of this, or I should say feature of this product, that allows me to also not just manage the conversion of the interface, but also give me a certain level of control, such as being also be able to correct the color and also do the scaling if needed. So this, again, it's sort of a platform that separates from anything else that we see out there at a different price point, but with the same reliability that we offer with the other products. Next slide. And then to continue on the same path of these converters, now we have this SDI to HDMI. Again, we offer the same functionality as the bidirectional card, but now with this particular one, we just added the ability to process 12G 4K. So what that means is that if you have a 12G 4K signal that you want to convert to HDMI 4K, you can also use this with the same ability to color correct, but minus the conversion or the scaling. That is the only limitation when you have the 12G option enabled on this. And I shouldn't say option because in reality, by default, this card comes with a 12G support or 4K support. And that is the only limiting aspect of this, that if you have 12G, you're not able to do any scaling like, 3G to 12G or 4K, but at least you're able to manage any source that's deriving from a 12G source or device, and that wants to come out 4K on the other end as an HDMI signal. Next. And then on the opposite end, we also have HDMI to SDI. Again, the same functionality that we offer with the bidirectional and the other card. Now we offer this as an HDMI to SDI. Again, with some controls like being able to color correct. No scaling, but you do get the frame sync and you get all the other functionality, as I mentioned, with the audio routing or down mixing if needed. Next slide. And then if you want to have a little more density within your workflow, and if you have many channels that you want to convert from HDMI to SDI, per channel, you get a great bang for your buck with this particular Sapphire card. You have 4 HDMI inputs that give you 4 SDI outputs. And again, you have the same ability to do color correction. You get the frame sync, and you can also do scaling in terms of being able to convert the frame rates from, let's say, 50 to 60 or the other way around. So again, this is the Sapphire platform that we have, and it's offering every time we do updates, it adds a little more value to anybody that already owns this. And I would say this could be a very good tool within your toolkit if you need to have a device that sort of gets you out of a snag or out of trouble whenever you need to address any devices that are HDMI and SDI within the same workflow. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we're going to talk about a new product that's being introduced at NAB, our Dante Interface Open Gear card. If you recall, we already have Dante support in the 9904, 9905 lines, but that is maybe an overkill for some applications because the card does a lot more than Dante. This is just the basic Dante gateway. So let's take a look at it, how it looks like. Similar to our other cards, but this is actually new hardware. So it's capable of doing Dante, AS, MADI, and SDI, simultaneous embedding and de-embedded. And I want to stress the simultaneous part. It can be, at the same time, it can be embedding and de-embedding. There is 2 versions of that card. We offer 2 versions of the card, a 4-channel version and a 2-channel version, of course, at a lower price. Those will be those are not upgradable. You either get the 4 or the 2. Physically, I decided to put the I/O panel there so you can see it's a lot of HDBMCs. You have your 2 gigabit Ethernet ports for redundancy, redundant Dante input and output. So those gigabit ports are obviously bidirectional. Then you have your 4 SDI inputs. Each input goes up to 4K, 2 and obviously in the dual channel version. 4 SDI outputs, a MADI out, a MADI in, and all 8 AS ports, which are configurable as inputs and outputs. So if my math's right, you have 18 HDBMCs here. So 4 here, plus 2 is 10, plus 8 is 18. So you can see 18 HDBMCs there for all of that. Let's look at the block diagram of this product. For those of you who have been in this presentation before, this will look a lot like, very similar, right? You've seen this before. It is the audio processing diagram of the 9904 MPX. The difference here is that in this product, in the Dante product, it doesn't do any video processing. All you have is a cross point, but you have the full mixer and router, so you can do anything you want with the audio. You take your 4 SDIs, you de-embed all 16 channels for each one of the SDIs. You can have your ASs coming in, you can have a MADI coming in, and you can have 64 channels of Dante coming in. The ASs, since we only have 8 plugs, each group of 4 is either input or output, so you can have 8 AS inputs for 16 channels, or 8 AS outputs, or 4 in and 4 out. So 8 in or 8 out, or 4 in and 4 out. So that is the 4-channel unit. The 2-channel unit is basically the same thing with 2 less channels. So we have only 2 SDIs. We have the same 8 AESs and 64 MIDI, but then in this case, the Dante matrix is 32 by 32 instead of 64 by 64. So lower capacity on this one at a lower price. Okay, now let's talk about compression. So we talked about the audio, now let's talk about video a little bit. So this is a new product. It's going to be shipping probably sometime around summer. It's a new decoder, a companion of the 9992 decoder. We call it the Pacific ULL decoder, and ULL stands for ultra low latency. This decoder has a basic decoding latency of 5 milliseconds with suitable streams. I mean, not every stream can be decoded with 5 milliseconds. It needs to be properly encoded, but we can have subframe end-to-end latency with the 9992 encoder in ULL mode. So ULL mode requires HEVC. And you may recall that it also requires high bit rate because you're trading off latency by basically, there's three things that you trade off: latency, quality, and bit rate. Pick any two. So in ultra low latency mode, we bring the latency down. So you have to push the bit rate up for the same quality. So it's got the same features as the 9992 decoder, and it's lower power. So more environmental. Everybody's green now. We are green too. It's lower power, probably a bit over half. So here's what it looks like. We support MPEG-2, AVC, and HEVC. The only difference between this one and the current 9992, it doesn't support MPEG-2 10-bit, but not many people do that anyway. Audio features are exactly the same. Network protocol features are exactly the same. And it supports the same thing, 2 decodes up to 1080p 60 or 1 4K decode also in 264 and HEVC. In the future, not in the summer, we are going to release, or we're considering release, a quad decode version of the same product with the restriction that all 4 streams will have to be in the same compression standard. So it's quad MPEG-2, quad 264, or quad 265. You pick, but they have to be all the same. So that's coming as well. I also have this slide, and I hope you're not tired of it, but I like to show just remind everybody what we can do in terms of audio and video encoder, audio and video supporting the encoders. So we have basically 3 encoders in the line now: the 9223, the 9990, and the 9992. The first 2 are only 264 encoders. The last one does everything. The first 2 are dual channel encoders. The last one is quad channel encoders. And I also have the bottom one is the audio support in the encoders. You can see the original ones only do MPEG-1 layer 2 and AACLC, and the 9992 does pretty much everything, including LPCM. Why am I talking about LPCM? LPCM is uncompressed audio. It's MT302 LPCM. That's what you have to do if you're going to bring the latency down, because all those other standards take, I don't know, 20 to 30 milliseconds. It's 24 on MPEG-1 layer 220 on AAC and 32 in Dolby. And if you're going very, very low latency, you cannot afford to compress audio. So you have to go LPCM. The cost of that is basically 2 megabits per second per stereo pair. But at that point, if you're going for low latency, you've got to be able to pay for that and pay in bandwidth. And same thing here. I'm showing, I like to show the audio decoding, video and audio decoding capability of the Pacific decoders. The existing lines, the legacy line, the 9990 decoder, is a nice utility decoder, but doesn't do HEVC and it doesn't do 10-bit or doesn't do 422. If you need that, it's the new decoders. And we have a very very wide audio support. In fact, wider than the encoder, because on the decoder we can do AC4 and OBE. So moving on, there's some new features in the compression line. These are additional features. First one is, we introduced that last year at IBC, so I need to talk to you about that now. There's customers using this already, is SCSI 104 support directly into the encoder. Normally, what you do is you connect your automation system to an embedder, which is the box on the left, and you put your SCSI 104 under SDI. But SCSI 104 has a network option too. You can talk directly to the encoder. So if you have a low latency network, your automation system can talk directly to the encoder, and it does support simultaneous SDI and TCP. We also support immediate insertion, VTC-based and NTP-based insertion. So the automation system says, okay, here's a message, but insert it when VTC gets to this value, or insert it at this time. And the encoder just sits on it and inserts when the time's right. So this is available now, it's shipping. And in fact, there's customers using it already. Another cute feature that we put in the decoder is ASI backup. And that's there for free. You just upgrade the firmware, you get that. We can have an ASI signal as a backup for whatever it is that the decoder is doing. So if whatever it is the primary fails, if the signal goes away or we stop decoding, you lose signal, it will switch to the ASI backup source. And this can be backup for anything, for RISC, for SRT, for RTMP, for RTSP, and even for the other ASI. So this is available now, and it will be available obviously in the Pacific URL decoder, but this is available now and it doesn't cost anything more. All you gotta do is upgrade the firmware. All right, next up is wave routers and control panels. Chris is gonna talk about that. Take it away, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Cyril. So let's, as Cyril said, we're gonna talk about some of the new routers. Obviously, we do have some legacy router cards that we designed for some time now, but now we're sort of trying to get a little more serious with the routing platforms that we're offering from Cobalt. Starting with this, as we call this, the 9942 RTR, we have two models. One is a 12 by 12, and the second one that's a 24 by 24. Both of these models can support any type of signal from 12G all the way to even being able to process MADI through the different cross points. What is unique about this is that you can deploy this or have this OpenGear router card sitting inside of an OpenGear frame that's also interfacing with other devices that are part of your workflow. So a good example could be if you have a fly pack or a small, kit that needs to go in a van or it needs to be as portable as possible. This gives you that flexibility because it's also utilizing the power supplies in the frame to drive this router. So you're very, very much so self-contained within the frame or your entire package. Out of the box, what you get with this is you get the RP160 reference base switching. So if you need to have that ability to be able to reassure that your switching is on point, and then we offer this for that particular use case. Existing control panels out there, such as DNF, PESA, the PNet, or the Level Snap panels, can easily be adapted to this. Now, we have some customers that have a preference, but for us, we know that we've already sort of connected these panels and validated these panels. So if you have existing panels out there, or a project that has panels that would like to be continue to be in use with any new design, then that would be something to consider, because this, even it's an OpenGear car router, it'll still talk to those particular panels. Now, We support the SWP08 in Sierra Video, so as far as protocols to be able to communicate with this router. So if you have that already as part of your mechanism to communicate with the existing routers, you can easily translate that and be able to communicate with this router as well. Next slide. And now, as I said, now moving on to a new platform or more traditional sense of routing, Cobalt now designed this new router. We call this the Wave RTR64 square router. What is very unique about this is that within the same router, we're not either supporting one format or another. We're basically supporting anything from SD all the way to 4K. And then we can easily adapt any IP-based control protocol to be able to talk to this. As you can see here in this image, we have a dedicated gigabit port to be able to control and talk to this router if needed. But along with that, we can also talk to it using PESA SWP08, and then we also have the Cobalt Reflex protocol if you need to communicate with this. But aside from that, we also have a built-in UI that allows you to easily, if you're plugged into that Ethernet port, you can easily open up a browser, type in the IP address for the router, and now you have full access to the source and destination, so the whole cross point of the router, and you can visually see what's going on with the router. Plus, you have control for the salvos, presets, and any other control that you may have. It'll be done through that UI. Now, we do have some customers already that are using this particular platform that are communicating with this router via some third-party control system. It can be like for example, we have a customer that's using QSys, and they developed a connector, or as they call it, a sort of like a script to be able to talk to this, and they're using this very light scripting language called Lua that allows them to basically create some controls that can easily talk to this router without having to go the traditional route in terms of using dedicated control panels, which we also have. But if you already have an existing infrastructure and an existing method of controlling other devices, and you want to put this in that mix of being able to control this through those existing control devices, then that's an option that you can have. And we know that it works because we have customers that are currently using this, and they're very happy because they don't have to be fixed, or they don't have to use older, antiquated, traditional methods of controlling this. Now, what you get out of this, out of the box, you get a whole, it's what you're looking at here is about 3 inches deep. You get full-size BNC connectors, and you also get the option to get a redundant power for this. You get one power supply when you purchase, and the second one is an option. And then we also have a 32 by 32 square that's also based on the same, very similar platform, but it's going to be much smaller than this, about half of this space. Instead of being a 4RU, it'll be a 2RU configuration. And it'll give you the same controls that we're showing here on this presentation, but in a more compact package for those very compact scenarios where you need to have a portable solution versus the big 4RU configuration like this one here. Next slide. And then, as I said, with the control panels, we do have these dedicated control panels. The first one that we see on the top, this is a more premium control panel. This is the Wave CP84. This has individual LCD buttons that can be programmed to basically support different shades of color. We support a full API control for this. So essentially, if you want to develop your own control, if scripting with this panel, you can do so. And again, this also will talk, and you can use the Lua-based API to let's just say, not only use this to control the routers, but you can use this as a general purpose control panel. So if you have devices, or if you have lights, or if you have other appliances that are attached within the same network, you can generate scripts, or you can control a command within one button that'll go off, for example, and say, hey, turn the monitor on, and then change to channel, let's say 1 or 2. You can create those sort of scripts within this particular panel, or one of these 2 panels. And it'll give you that much more value versus just having a panel that's just dedicated for controlling the routers. The difference between these two panels that we see here, the CP84 and the CP78, is that the top one obviously is the more premium one with the LCD buttons. The one at the bottom, it's a more more economical in a sense because we're not using the more premium buttons. But behind the panel itself, the engine that's driving these two panels is the same. So essentially, you're still having the same capabilities, same performance, same reliability as the one on the top, but we're saving a little bit on the cost of the buttons by giving you a little more like a bare bones sort of solution with the same flexibility to control devices, being able to route your sources to any destination. And then as some of the options that we're listing here, for example, if you need to have GPI, GPIO options, you can easily activate those on any of these two panels. You also get the redundant power with this. And then we also offer the power over Ethernet, which is another great option if you want to be able to use that functionality within your workflow. And as I just mentioned, if you want to further implement some functionality using Lua, we have that ability to be able to provide that Lua-based API that'll give you far more control, far more reach within your applications by being able to use this as a general purpose panel to be able to create and generate some scripts that can control external third-party devices versus just having to control our routers. So these are the new wave routers and control panels from Cobalt.
Thank you, Chris. All right, let me talk about OpenGear frame updates. We now have new OpenGear frames. So we are launching at NAB 2 new OpenGear compatible frames. Cobalt's had the HPF 9000 for a long time, the blue frame. We now have 2 new frames. The first one is called the HPF 9500, which is basically a 9000 with support for a gigabit Ethernet to all slots. So it uses the same power as in fact, even the same power supplies as the current HPF 9000. And the next one is called the HPF Max, which also has support for gigabit Ethernet and very sophisticated cooling with variable fans and increased power availability. This new frame, the Max, has 700 watts of usable power. We have, to go with the new frames, we have 2 new frame controllers. We have the HPF 9500 FC. It's equivalent to a current HPF FC, exactly the same thing, but it physically fits in the frame. It's a low-cost controller that does not have a gigabit Ethernet backplane. And then the new HPF GE FC includes a top-of-the-line gigabit Ethernet switch, a very modern Ethernet switch with connections to all the slots, and fits in both frames. So I have a very useful little matrix here of all the product combinations. So you have 2 frames, the 9500 and the Max. You have 2 controllers, the 9500 FC and the gigabit FC, and you have the corresponding power supplies. But that gives you essentially 3 combinations. If you take the 9500 with the 9500 FC, is the lowest cost frame. There are no gigabit Ethernet, and it's same as HPF FC. That's the frame you're going to get if you just want to fill it with DAs and be done with it. If you don't need all the power, but you'd like to have the gigabit Ethernet to all the slots, then you pair the HPF 9500 with the HPF GEFC. And if you need the whole thing, gigabit and high power, you go with the HPF Max. So these are not compatible. Note that the current HPF FC network card is not compatible with either one of these frames simply because of the number of connections it's got. All right. I'll pass it on to Chris again for other product updates. Chris?
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so
Sorry.
yeah, So this slide that we show here, this is for anybody that already owns. If you guys have a customer, if you're a customer that already has existing 9904 UDX cards, we are essentially with this option trying to give you or add a little more value to an existing product that you already have, but also at the same time we're addressing or trying to resolve some pain points for some workflows, right? So, for example, by default, this particular card can only function as either as an SD, 3G, or 4K, but you can never make it function as you know, as a 4K and also SD or 3G at the same time. But now with this option, what we're doing is you know, we're giving you a little more functionality and flexibility. For example, if you have a 4K and you want to keep your entire production, your entire program as a 4K signal, but if you also need to deliver a 3G or an SD signal, you can easily do that with this new option by having a second path that sort of gives you a down-converted version of your program versus having to go through a second step externally to be able to convert that 4K signal to either an SD or 3G. Now, the benefit of this is that we're able to also give you that same flexibility, but also adding the ability to process, for example, LUTs. You can also create or preserve the frame sync and be able to embed in the embed audio. So that ability still remains, and it extends out to the second path, which would be a second path as an SD or 3G signal. But the benefit of this, again, is being able to preserve that. If you're, for example, doing this as a 3G, then you keep it as a 3G. But if your entire program or entire production is 4K, then you're able to easily, you know, create that or deliver that down converted or the you can call it a proxy of your mezzanine, if you will, you know, but you get that same functionality and the benefit of being able to have a second LUT, being able to preserve or have frame sync, and being able to embed your audio if needed, and doing some of the performance, some of the delay with the audio controls that you have in the car. So again, this is an option. If you already have an existing card, you can talk to any of us at Cobalt, and we can help to upgrade your cards if you want to have this functionality. But we feel that this sort of adds a little more value to anybody that already has an existing 9904 card, because you know, now you have a bit more options when you're dealing with how do you manage 4K and also being able to deliver 3G at the same time. Next slide. And so now we have this this new DA card. This is actually by popular demand, we decided to come up with this because so if you guys are familiar with our different models that we offer, we had a 9000 series, and we went to a 9910 DA series, and then we had the 9915 series. Now we have this, we are now moving on from numbers to color names. So now this is the Royal OG. But this sort of carries the tradition of reliability and quality on in terms of the DAs. Cobalt is very well known in terms of being able to offer very good quality, simple DA solutions. And this sort of represents that same philosophy, right? We have a very basic DA card that can be configured as a 1x8, or it can be a 2 1x4. So if you wanted to have the ability to route or distribute your signals anywhere from SD, ASI, or 12G, this new platform will give you that flexibility to do that. Plus, on board, you also have the protection of a bypass relay switch that'll give you that further control of having that control of your signal. With this, because this is a very basic card, We are not giving you any of the fancy controls that we had with the 9915 in terms of having a cross point, all that. That just adds a little more cost to your overall bottom line or the cost of the product. But in retrospect, we're giving that same reliability, but in a very simple package. So this again, if you wanted to configure this, you can easily open up dashboard and see it there, but you can also control it through the card edge by setting up the dip switches and either setting that as a 1x8 or it can be a dual 1x4. Again, this is the simple Royal OG 1x8 12GDA card. Next slide. And then along with our legacy fiber little throwdown card boxes, we have, again, we kind of talked about this before, but we feel that there's still a lot of folks out there, a lot of customers that are not aware that we have these 12G little boxes for fiber. Again, very similar to the other SD, HD, and 3G boxes that we have. This is a 12G that supports different rates. You can also transport either ASI or MADI, and they support different connectors, for example, ST, LC, and FC. And the cost for this particular little box is almost marginal. And you get 5 years warranty, which is our standard warranty for all these products that we've been talking about. And if you go to the next slide, please. And then we have the opposite, right? So it's basically the same, if you wanted to set up or extend, if you have an existing fiber link between different open gear cards, but if you run out of real estate within the racks or the frame, you can easily extend that continuation of extending your fiber link by having external devices like these little boxes that, by the way, share the same intelligence and the same quality as the open gear cards, but we bring it out into a smaller footprint to be able to accommodate different scenarios where you might be limited with your space, but again, you want to be able to preserve and be able to manage those different data rates with the same connectors. And these are the latest other products that we have within Cobalt.
Thank you, Chris. All right, last part of this is the NAB boot demos. So I'm going to give you a preview of what you're going to see in person when you join us in Vegas.
I was just going to ask, Ciro, if anybody has any questions so far. It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. So yes, good point. Any questions so far?
Does anyone have any questions on the compression, the new DA, routers, control panels? Please feel free to type it away in the chat box.
And by the way, if anybody wants to see any of these products or a demo, aside from these or the slides that we have here, we can always do a one-on-one virtual demo, so we can give you guys a little sneak peek or show you guys what it looks like under the hood, or give you guys a little more of a detailed explanation on any of these products.
Okay. Feel free to stop me and ask questions any point, but I'm going to go over what you're going to see when you join us in Vegas. Hope you all join us in Vegas, and you can also ask questions in person. So we're going to have a very interesting booth this year, because since we eat our own dog food, we have our router at the center of the booth. So it's going to be running SDI to all over the place, and it's going to be the source for pretty much all the demos. So we'll have a few content sources, local content sources, and we're going to have a camera in Champaign. That camera is actually in my office looking out of my window, and that picture is exactly what you see right now, a little bit brighter because the sun is out. And that we'll have a control panel in the router. We're going to be able to route. We're going to have an SDI multi-viewer there, so you can see it working. And that's going to feed a Dante demo, which I don't have a slide for, but because it's basically Dante embedding in the embedding. It's going to feed an Indico gateway that's running the 2110 part of the boot. And we'll have an SDR to HDR ATSC demo. So This is kind of the basics of the boot. The SDIs go into a whole bunch of devices, and that's going to have a local 2110 network, and that local 2110 network is going to run Sapphire converters, the Ultra Blue multiviewer, the encoder with Indigo option, and the gateways to come out. So we'll have a full 2110 network in the boot running that. There'll be a stand just for this, for ATSC 3.0 HDR conversion. That's something that's hot now, and to be frank, it's something we could do forever, but we want to highlight that. The typical application is for people who want stations who want to just dip their toes on ATSC 3.0. That requires 1080p transmission, and you start with a 1080i or 720p, and you want to send HDR. So we can do that in our 9904 or 9905, depending on whether or not you need 4K. So you start with an up conversion in the interlacing, then you convert SDR to HDR, and there's many ways of doing that. There's the BBC LUTs that we include for free. The NBC LUTs are free. The BBC LUTs you have to pay for because we have to pay the BBC. So sorry about that. And you also have the dynamic conversion with technical ITM, and that can give you PQ10, which is the pure SDR signal, or HLG, which is already emission format. So it can emit PQ, or it can emit HLG, or it can emit SLHDR1. So that's all available today, and it has been for a while, but we want to bring that to your attention. We're going to have a nice ULL demo. I'm gonna have a pattern generator with a bouncy box and a time code, and we'll throw that in the multiviewer. You're gonna see that basically it's a visual indication of the latency. So we may even just run this through the multiviewer. We're going to have Ultra Blue multiviewer as well, and we're going to show. It's going to be side by side with our SDI multiviewer. We're going to show the ability to have mixed displays with different orientations. So that's going to be there. And that's it. We'll have a Dante demo too, but that's just Dante embedding the embedding. So I didn't feel like putting a slide for that. And that's that. Back to you, Susanna.
Well, does anybody have any questions? I know we went a little over here, so that was absolutely a full hour of talking, and no questions so far. So let us know if you guys have any questions. Please reach out to the salespeople in your region and let us know if you're coming or not to the event. And if you'd like to set up a meeting ahead of time, that's usually very, very helpful because it gets crazy. And let us know if you're not coming. Be happy to host and talk to anyone from your region and pass on the information back to you. So keep in touch with us, and thank you so much for joining today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I mean, we're here. It's nice time to go over any doubts. Otherwise, we'll post the recording on YouTube in the next couple of days, by Thursday for sure, and we'll send you the PDF with the slides too, so you can start using the new slides with your customers.
All right. Thank you
Thank
all.
you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.